Hello and welcome, Rangers. I'm Joe, here with me is my co-host Dan.
Hello and greetings.
And we have another shot-for-shot analysis for you all. Ooh. Sorry. Anyways, actually, this is a scene that, when I was a kid, just made me go, wow. Ooh. Coolest thing ever. Because people have to understand, at this time, there was no conception of the helmet or the mask of any superhero being of any practical use. They're just stuff they wore because, well, they wanted to hide their leprosy. And the thing is, the Power Rangers, though, ended up kind of coming up with the different purposes for the different masks, helmets, I mean. And what's also interesting is that apparently they originally shot it without the helmets. Because someone at the studio thought, well, it'd be better without the helmets. But when they found out that was stupid, despite the actors trying to warn them, they put the helmets back on them. Duh. Or I think they wanted like half helmets at one point. It was really stupid. And you had some members of the production crew and the actors just going, you guys are imbecilic. What are you doing? And so we got this great scene where the characters are wandering in the dark. And the thing is, they can't see anything. And it adds a creepy element because the enemies, the putties in this case, are not just charging. They're actually using cunning, stealth. They're even luring the Rangers into a trap, which shows these things are way smarter than the putties of any of the series. In my view, these guys are probably stronger than some of the generals in some series, and they also show they're smarter than some. Like Goldar could not have... Like Goldar was never very bright. He just did what he was told. It's Lord Zed who's the brains. I'd say Rita, but she wasn't terribly bright either.
Yeah, because Goldar and Rita could be clever, but they weren't bright.
No, but like eventually their cunning was starting to... Like they were getting into a rut. They were getting dumber. Zed was clever and brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd even argue this is the sort of trap which we wouldn't see, like not counting Zed and whatnot, we wouldn't see until, like, it's kind of equal until in space. When Drakina would try to lure Leo into some of these traps. Funny how she never tried to lure the other Rangers, but they were side characters. I'm joking.
Yeah.
I'm joking. I like Lost Galaxies, but let's be honest, it's the Leo show. Well, occasionally Mike co-stars in it, but yeah.
And Kai guest stars.
Yeah. I like Kai. I wish he got another series. He's a good character. But this is the sort of trap that, honestly, for putties to pull off is pretty good. And pretty interesting. And of course you get the Rangers who are kind of getting a little paranoid and uncomfortable. Like, they're just wandering through it. And I like how what the movie does, they don't just have it happen instantly. They stretch the scene out. Like, you know, you see the tension raising. You see the Rangers kind of getting a little, they're looking around. They're getting jumpy. And the fact that Billy is the first to get jumpy and who, jumps around a corner going, huh! Nothing. I like that. That's a great effect. And the fact that it's the character with the highest IQ who got the jumpiest. And arguably, Billy has some of the most experience. Also of overcoming fear. He doesn't scare easy at this point. And we've got to bear in mind, at this point, you lock Billy up in a fight with like the entirety of the first team. Billy's coming out on top and he's already won. And yeah, I'm even including Green Ranger Tommy. He'd be the outlier. And Kimberly. But like Zach, Trini, and Jason teaming up against Billy at this point, Billy's winning. But the problem is Billy's getting jumpy. And yeah.
At this point, their battle instincts have been hardened.
Yeah.
And they would react when...
Yeah, but the problem is Billy jumped out of shadow.
Yeah, his instincts are high, expecting an ambush on him.
And it's also because I think he's overanalyzing it mentally. Like he's, and this is where I'm gonna say, what's interesting to me is that the one who's keeping calm the most is Tommy. Tommy is the one who's just kind of remaining calm, and like you see it in the body language. Like he's just where the others are kind of like you have Adam in the background just looking around, jumpy. Same with Billy. You have Tommy just strolling, looking around, but like you could see he's tout. Like if there was an attack, he'd be the first to in action. But he's relaxed enough. He's comfortable enough. The others are jumpy. He's not, and that's the kind of leader you want in this situation. Someone who's going to remain calm, deadly, and focused. And that's something I really like about Tommy. Very little throws him off balance. When he's honed in, when he's zoned in, like, I'm sorry, but he's the perfect and greatest ranger for a reason. And I just love this scene. I just love this scene. Now, on the other hand, I like how the putties are basically, like you could see them glancing around at like a bend and whatnot. I like this. But I also like that these guys aren't stupid in that, like, they know how to scare people. Like, they just go, "Whoa!" or whatever. Like, they make that noise.
They cause various noise to psych them out.
Yeah, even as they don't pounce. It's just a jump scare for the Rangers. Not for us, the viewers, but the Rangers. This is really good battle strategy. A fake scare so that they lull them into a false sense of security in a way. Like the Rangers will use up their energy just getting jumpy, and then, they won't be prepared. The next time this happens, that's the thinking. I really like it. But of course, Tommy, though he tensed up, then goes, okay, after Kimberly's like, can anyone see anything? He's the one who decides, okay, you know what? Aisha, do your thing. And I like that it's him who gives the command, like, we need some light. And he just says it firmly, like, we need some light. Kind of expectant of her almost. And it's not arrogant, it's just like, we need some light. Like, this is your cue. And she, for her part, just immediately goes, all right, activating the light thing. And it works like one of those lights on those, sur les casques of the miners. And I just like how she just glances all over, shedding light all over. I love this. Like Batman's helmet, for example, that gets so much attention for being so useful, which in the Batman Begins Dark Knight era, yes, it is now useful. But before that, it was just a toy, basically, to protect his identity. It didn't serve any real purpose, and in most cartoons and comics and whatnot, it was not a helmet but a mask. And then later it became a helmet, which was a good change. It should have always been a helmet. But the Power Rangers did the useful helmet thing first. And I actually think they should have incorporated this in the actual series so that it gives each helmet its own usefulness and its own purpose. But I also like to think that, to an extent, if you were to fit it into the canon, this is particular to these Rangers. That this was part of the energy transfer, and whatever helmets Jason, Zach, and Trini would have been different than what, Aisha and Rocky and Adam had. So that's kind of, although these are scientific Ranger costumes right now because, they were designed more scientifically, and whereas the ones for the Secret Power are more spiritual. That's how I look at it. And I think that it makes it more interesting if each helmet is variable and fitted and custom designed to an extent to the individual Ranger. It just makes it more interesting. Now, on the other hand, we have Rocky, who's, after another brief interlude of just exploring the darkness, who activates a kind of scanner on his helmet. And it does make the helmet look different, and I like that. The helmet changes, and then he could change it back. This is a great idea.
And it's a pity Saban didn't build on these, because after the movie was first shown,
Everybody had higher expectations.
instead of the stock footage from the Super Sentai series,
And the actors were perfectly game to do it.
yeah, and the fact that this Plastic Man armor was very popular, and the kids loved it.
Apparently not plastic.
I
Just kidding with you. But yeah, the interesting thing is also that, like, it's Rocky who has the scanner. And what I love is that early in season 2, Rocky had low self-esteem about his IQ. And this is something that does feature in the series a little. Even into Zio a little. But he's gifted with the scanner, not Billy. And I think, for one thing, the thing about Rocky as a character, as we see throughout the series, he thinks he's a he's a retard or something. He thinks he's Kazuma Kuwabara. But what we see in the series is that quite a few times when other characters act on emotions, Rocky always keeps a level head. And even in situations which the Berserker Jason would rush in or leap out at, Rocky keeps a level head. And Rocky has his own temper, but it takes a lot more to fire it up. And because Jason had a very short fuse. And the thing is, I'm not bashing Jason, I'm just saying this was a character flaw. And really, they should have built on this character flaw for a larger character arc. They occasionally did, but they should have made it a long-term series thing and whatnot. And him coming back and saying, there should have been that focus on it, but they don't seem to have done that. All I'm saying is Jason was ill-served by bad writing. But the thing is, there was a lot of good writing as well with Jason. But it's just, they didn't think of it until I think he was gone. Whereas Rocky, what's interesting is in a few episodes, he enjoys the fight. Like, the thing with him is, Jason gets hyper serious in a fight. Rocky treats it like a game, and so starts laughing and cackling. Remember the one episode where he bashes the ground and there's that ripple effect? And he throws off a few lesser Rita bosses during the marriage of Rita and Zed? He was having fun and just bashed the ground and was starting to lose himself and just almost tormenting the enemy. But that's Rocky. And yet, here he is. He's the one with the intellectual toy, the scanner. And it scans for life readings, analyzes the actual creature, and apparently can lock in on them. This is a very useful helmet. He's got the best helmet ever. It would, like, imagine it in Billy's hands. And yet, Rocky has it. Which, like I said, I think it's really cool and neat. I think it also shows a creativity of the movie writers. That they decided to play on Rocky's IQ and suggest he's not stupid. He might think he is, but he's not. He's actually pretty smart. He's just usually a level-headed one. But in this movie, they play with his anger, as we'll see later, and Steve Gardner does a great job with this, and it builds for a much deeper image and character, I think. That being said, I like that Rocky also knows how to use the helmet. So that the movie doesn't show the Rangers as incompetent, but rather hyper-competent. Because, like, in a way, I'm going to make a weird argument against the first X-Men movie. While I liked a lot of things in it, in hindsight, when they're entering the Statue of Liberty and they're trying to find the Brotherhood, boy, are they incompetent. Storm, Cyclops, and Phoenix, are utterly incompetent. If it was not for Wolverine, they like the fact that the freaking civilian is better at their job than them. It's actually kind of sad, and we have to compare the two scenes because it's the same scene in a way. Yet the X-Men are basically outfoxed, outmaneuvered, and if it was not for sheer dumb luck on the part of Storm and bad judgment on the part of Mystique, the X-Men would be dead. They dead. Whereas the Power Rangers are in the same situation, but they have the mental acuity not to let themselves get separated, which I will admit it was Wolverine's fault as well, because he was dumb. But on the other hand, he's a distressed father whose child was stolen from him, so...
Plus, you had Mystique that was disguised as Wolverine.
At one point. But I'm just saying he still walked away from the rest of the team.
True.
When he shouldn't have. But I give him a bit of a... Well, you know, his daughter's basically missing, so he's kind of... You know what I mean? Like, he's a parent. But on the other hand, what's the other X-Men's excuse, I mean. But you get the Power Rangers who just decide they're sticking together, they're grouped together, and they're moving like a commando team. If you were to tell me this was the X-Men's first outing and they had never even fought together and they didn't know how to use their powers or even fight at all, I'd believe it. Because the movie did not show them as very competent. They actually kind of suck at their jobs. Basically, Wolverine carried the entire movie and wounded his back doing it. And ironically, Storm would only be useful in the third movie. But, and yes, I'm being obnoxious with these X-Men movies in the MCU a little because in hindsight, there are problems. And the Power Rangers managed to deal with the exact same situation, are dealing with probably smarter enemies, and they only split up during the fight, but they still keep each other for the most part within like eyesight of each other. You know what I mean? I noticed that they do stay within eyesight of each other. Only Tommy's separated, but it seems to me like the Putties made a point of separating him from the rest. But he is the strongest, so you don't want him barking out orders and leading the team. But the thing is, the individual Rangers are so competent that, separate them from their leader. Pah, good luck taking them down because they know what they're doing. And the weird thing is, in universe, these are supposed to be teenagers, and yet they're better than the X-Men, Avengers, and Justice League at this. It's like, what the heck? But, yeah, so it's interesting that just before the trap's about to spring, one of the ooze monsters seems to cross over, near there where there's a bit of lighting and where between two pillars, or columns, I should say. And that's when Rocky zooms in on him. And it's clear the putty did it on purpose to distract them and get them focused on, what's far away rather than what's coming. And, you got Rocky over there. But here's where I'm also going to compare it. No offense. If it was an Avengers or X-Men movie, it'd be like, after him, gang. And that character's just going to charge ahead. And the others don't know what they're doing. They're going to panic. And this is basically what happened in most of the Avengers movies. There he is. One of them charges. They don't function as a team. And it's like, no wonder you lost to Thanos. You know what I mean? Like, none of you actually fought like a team. If you had fought like a team, you'd win instantly like that.
The only time they fought as a team was in Infinity Gauntlet, when you had Spider-Man, Iron Man, Star-Lord, and Doctor Strange taking on Thanos. And the only reason they lost was because of plot armor.
Yeah.
And they did far better than all the other Avengers in the next movie.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't know because I haven't seen the movie, so I'm going to take your word for it. But the thing is, I would argue the only kind of, it's not superheroes, but the only kind of sci-fi team that would operate at this competency level would be Star Wars, with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, and later Anakin and Obi-Wan in Episode 3. Like, we'd have to wait that long. I'm not saying Luke and his team were incompetent. No. Actually, Luke and Han are a good team. No, like, let's give praise to episode 4 and 6 Luke and Han team-ups, or that entire team, because they're freaking good. And they're not supposed to be as well trained as some of the Avengers and X-Men and Justice League are. And yet they're better. And the Power Rangers are basically teenagers who got this power dumped on them one day to the next. Just like 2-3 years before the events of the movie. And yet they're better at this. Like, my point is, when you have people with military experience, arguably like Iron Man, he technically does to an extent. And he has access to a military advisor in War Machine, and you have Captain America. Like, these two men are military men. Thor is basically a military man as well, because, you know, he's basically commander of the armies of Asgard, and he's a god. Clint is essentially an army man. Same with Natasha. How are they so bad at this? And how are the Power Rangers so much better at this than actual military? And technically, the X-Men are paramilitary. And they get up. They screw it up. So this is why I'm like, there's a problem here. There's a serious problem. And yeah, I just like how, you know, like the first instinct from Rocky is over there, but he doesn't move. He stays with the team. And that's like, thank you. You know, like a military man wouldn't say, let's charge. Everybody's running around and, you know, stop, shit, you idiot. No,
Instead, Tommy's like, hold,
power up. Like, basically switch the helmets from the scientific scanners and whatnot to the normal helms. And like, he even does the fist signal. Like, power.
Yeah.
All right, they switch their helms. Like, they seem to morph the helmets. And, you know, then it's everybody, you know, they basically form a circle. And
the trap is sprung, but it fails.
Well, yeah, and the putties surround them and whatnot. And yeah, you're right. It does fail because if this was any other superhero team, you know what they would do? They would charge, the putties would win. There'd be a casualty. And I'm saying if there's no plot armor, there's a casualty or two. Because they just charge and wouldn't think about, wait, it's a trap. Because they're dumb. Whereas the Power Rangers, what's their reaction? Hold. It's a trap. You know, like, Tommy doesn't say it's a trap. Like, even each of the Rangers, it seems to me, are probably like, come on, we weren't born. No, we're young, but we're not born yesterday. And, you know, like, good to know that Tommy has better strategic thinking than Superman, Batman, Captain America, and every other superhero ever made, and is just going, hold. And, you know, like, he doesn't say it, but we know he means it when he says power up. He's saying it's a trap. But yeah, they're surrounded, and I just like how it's just, you know, it shows our Rangers are competent. I just like that. Just show me, it's in the little things. Because when well, yeah, but we got to show how edgy and individualistic our superheroes are. Yeah, but my response is, the hero who fights alone dies alone, and that's how it should be in all these superhero franchises. Superman charges off, the enemy suddenly jumps out with a kryptonite spear and stabs him, and that's it for Superman. He's done. Move to the next one. And I'm not arguing that from a deconstructionist point of view. I'm arguing from a, like, Thunderbird in the one comic. Hey, I don't need no team. Jumps into a jet, dies, and
he tries to
but he was an idiot.
But he was
stupid.
He was an idiot. The villain came back.
Deservedly. Thunderbird did not deserve to come back. He was an idiot. And the thing is, I just think, like, I think there should have been at least one character who says, yeah, well, he got what was coming to him. How could he be so dumb? You know, just say that to Cyclops, who was grieving hard. But, like I said, the Power Rangers, at least, it's like, okay, we're going to stay in our... We're going to basically do what we should do and just form a battle circle and just... All right.
They move... The team moves as an individual.
Yeah. And the individual stays with the team. They really follow the phrase, united we stand, divided we fall. And I just think, like, have the heroes fight as a team. Because these Rangers all have different weapons and are very individualistic and individualized. But they still know to abandon the weaknesses of individuality and individualism for the greater whole. Because collectivism is not a weakness. It's actually a strength. And the reason I say that is not to preach against ideas of individualizing yourself. You should. You need to refine the individual. But you also need to contribute to the whole. That is to say, your tribe, your nation, so on. The thing is, this is what I mean. You're part of a family. You're part of a group. You need to contribute. Everybody, like, it's not complete without you in it. Like, we're all part of a greater whole, of a greater song of the universe. And so, you got to learn to contribute. But on the other hand, you got to learn to accept help from others. That's the message of Power Rangers. It's you're part of a greater whole. The team is, there's no I in team. But on the other hand, there is room for everyone to refine themselves. We're all like from Fullmetal Alchemist, we're all is one and one is all, basically. You shouldn't lose your individuality, but you shouldn't also hurt others just out of greed for yourself. So there's a lot philosophically I find that one could read here that you'll never see any other superhero team story ever. And only Power Rangers could have produced something like this. And maybe Ninja Turtles. Because Ninja Turtles does a good job showing the same thing. Because Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I bet that left you all shell-shocked that I mentioned TMNT. I couldn't resist that pun. Any thoughts?
I'm sure you shreddered the audience.
All right. Now to power through the outro. Anyways, don't forget to check out our book. It'll be in the comment section. Not the description, because, we're not, that'll actually harm the overall outreach of the video. But also, we've got a crowdfund coming out on June 2nd. And it's going to be for a book we are helping to edit. So if you are feeling generous, the link will be posted in the next video after this. As, well, we're still waiting for it to be approved by Kickstarter. So until then, don't forget to also hit that like and that subscribe button, as it would help greatly, because thanks to you all, we've now hit 400 subscribers. Yay! Finally. But, there's a nobler cause now. 500. Well, 100 subs for each of the original Rangers. Well, minus Tommy. So, yeah. And we'll have to do something special soon. Well, we'll figure something out for the channel. If need be, we'll do another live stream one of these days for Power Rangers to celebrate 400, and then maybe we'll do another one when we reach 500. Maybe we should do it that way.
Yeah.
It'll have to wait till next week, though, because I have a road trip this week. Oy vey. But yeah, stay tuned for that. I'll probably have to book it up and schedule it, and we'll see you all later, and can't wait to keep growing this channel. And because, nothing's going to stop us now, except maybe Ivan Ooze. So remember, Rangers, may the power protect you.